Welcome back to War Archive, your gateway to the untold stories of history's greatest battles and the mysterious folk tales that time almost forget. Like, share and subscribe and enter a world of war, mystery, and timeless. The rails beneath the mountain. The first rumor came with the smell of coal smoke and surrender. Spring of 1945. The Reich was collapsing in on itself, cities burning like offerings to a dying god. In the rail yards of Lower Silesia, abandoned locomotives rusted beside bomb craters filled with rainwater the color of old blood. Soldiers fled west, civilians fled everywhere, and somewhere in that chaos a train vanished. Not a troop train. Not refugees. A sealed convoy, armored cars, unmarked manifests, guarded by men who no longer believed in victory but still believed in orders. They said it carried gold. They said it carried art ripped from museums and synagogues. They said it carried secrets, documents, prototypes, ledgers of names that could damn the living and resurrect the dead. They called it the Gold Train. And then it disappeared. The man who survived too much. Captain Lucas Weber had survived Stalingrad, which meant fate had unfinished business with him. He walked with a slight limp from shrapnel lodged too close to the spine to remove. His left hand shook when he was tired. His conscience shook all the time. By 1945, Weber no longer believed in flags. He believed in trains, maps, and the mathematics of survival. As a logistics officer reassigned from the front, he understood something most men didn't. Wars are won and lost on supply lines, and crimes are hidden on schedules. When the order came, escort a special train west, no questions, no delays, Weber knew it wasn't meant to arrive. Cargo without a name. The train stood under tarpaulins at dusk, its engine already warm. Guards were not Wehrmacht regulars but black-uniformed security men with hollow eyes and new boots. They spoke little. Their commander carried no insignia, only a leather folder chained to his wrist. Weber inspected the cars. Steel reinforced. Double locks. Lead-lined compartments. One car emitted a dull, constant hum. Machinery, perhaps, or something alive that pretended to be metal. He asked for the manifest. There was none. The commander leaned close and whispered, "If this train is captured, the war ends differently." Weber did not ask how. The long night east. They departed under blackout, rails singing like nerves under tension. Villages slid past as shadows. Somewhere behind them, artillery thundered like an argument God had grown tired of refereeing. Inside the cars, Weber finally saw the cargo. Gold bars stacked like bricks for a cathedral no one would worship in. Crates of paintings, Rembrandts, icons, Torah crowns wrapped in linen still stained with fingerprints. Chests of currency from occupied nations, bundled and labeled with dates of confiscation. And then there were the other crates. No markings. Too heavy for paper. Too cold for art. Weber felt the old fear, the one that came when survival demanded silence. The partisans in the pines. Near midnight, the tracks ahead exploded. The engine screamed as brakes locked. Trees shattered. Gunfire stitched the darkness. Partisans emerged from the forest, young and furious, wielding captured rifles and a rage older than the war itself. The guards fought with the discipline of men who knew retreat meant erasure. Weber took cover behind a crate of stolen crowns and fired not to kill, but to keep men pinned. He recognized the partisans' leader, a woman with a scarred cheek and a voice that cut through chaos. She shouted his name. "Lucas Weber, you move stolen bones for murderers." She had been a student once. He had signed her transit papers in 1942. That was when the train split. The vanishing. In the confusion, a secondary engine detached the rear cars. Smoke swallowed the junction. When dawn came, half the train lay derailed and burning. The other half was gone. No tracks led away. No witnesses agreed on direction. The forest swallowed rails like a mouth closing over a secret. The commander was dead. The folder was missing. The gold was no longer Weber's problem, or so he told himself, until the Americans arrived with questions sharp enough to draw blood. After the surrender, Weber surrendered because it was easier than running. He gave statements, names, routes, everything except the truth he didn't yet understand. Interrogators asked about the missing cars. He said he didn't know. That was almost honest. Released under an amnesty meant for men useful to the future, Weber drifted through the ruins of a country learning how to forget itself. But forgetting is a skill, and he was never good at it. The woman with the scar found him 3 years later. Maps that shouldn't exist. She brought maps, pre-war railway blueprints, mining surveys, engineering diagrams stamped with seals that no longer mattered. They met in a cellar beneath a church rebuilt twice since the war ended. The train didn't vanish, she said. It was buried. She pointed to a mountain riddled with abandoned tunnels, a place where forced laborists had carved the earth for weapons that never came. The missing cars were hidden there, sealed behind collapses engineered to look like accidents. Weber realized then the final crime of the war was not theft. It was patience. The third faction. They were not alone in their search. Men in suits without dust on their shoes began asking questions in nearby towns. Old officers disappeared. Witnesses recanted. Someone wanted the train to remain a myth. These men spoke of reconstruction and stability. They offered Weber protection in exchange for silence. He refused. For the first time since the war began, refusal felt like an act of defiance instead of suicide. Into the mountain. The tunnel mouth yawned like a wound. They descended with lamps and borrowed courage, stepping over rusted rails and bones left where exhaustion had claimed them. Behind a false wall, they found the cars. The gold was still there. So was the art. But the other crates opened. Inside were documents detailing asset transfers, foreign accounts, names of collaborators who had already rebranded themselves as saviors of the postwar world. The mountain had not just hidden wealth. It had hidden futures. Betrayal in the dark. The woman's allies arrived too quietly. Gunshots echoed. Lamps shattered. The deal had been made without Weber's consent. Sell the gold, expose nothing, by a nation's rebirth with silence. Weber stood between the crates and the exit, rifle shaking, heart steady. He fired. Not to protect gold. To protect truth. The tunnel collapsed as charges detonated, burying cars, men, and evidence in a tomb of stone. Only Weber emerged. The story that remained. Years later, hikers would claim their compasses spun near the mountain. Treasure hunters would dig and fail. Governments would deny everything. Weber lived long enough to write what he had seen, knowing it would be dismissed as legend. He mailed copies to libraries, archives, anyone who still believed paper could outlast power. He died believing the train was exactly where it belonged. What the rails remember. Wars do not end. They sink into the ground and wait. The Nazi gold train was never about riches. It was about how evil plans for tomorrow even as it loses today, and how men decide, too late or just in time, whether they will be part of that plan. Some secrets are buried to be forgotten. Others are buried so they can haunt us forever.